All right. Gosh, I can't believe all these people here. As if I wasn't already nervous. Oh, normally I'd be drinking a pint of Fireball and trying to picture y'all in your underwear, and that usually doesn't go well at all. Um, you got me in a dress. Now this does not ever happen, but I figured since Mark could wear a tie to speak, I could probably pull off a dress for an hour. So, all right. I guess we'll start with how it was, what it was like. I grew up in let me start over already. I did not grow up. I was raised in a small town in the Midwest in Brookings, South Dakota. Population about 14,000. There was one grocery store, 2 gas stations, and about 20 bars, because that's all we ever did was go to the bar. And my family resembled Leave It to Beaver. I had both of my folks. I had a younger brother. Yeah, not anything like Leave It to Beaver either. There was alcohol and there was other stuff that I never saw in Leave It to Beaver. But so when I was a kid, I never felt like I fit in. I always was struggling to find my group, and I never felt like I could do that. I like when in gym class when they'd pick a captain for a team, and then the captain would pick the team. I was always the last one picked. In classes where you'd have to have a partner, nobody wanted to be my partner. I don't know why, I'm not sure, but maybe I was shy, and maybe I was probably shy. And I'd hide in the corner and not want anybody to pick me. But I did. I was kind of the class clown. Always looking for attention, but not really wanting it. It was kind of, I don't know, hard to explain. I always had like just one good friend. You know, I'd pick out one good friend, and I'd hang out with them, and nobody else really mattered. And then when I got a little older and discovered that boys didn't have cooties, I got, I'd have a boyfriend, and I'd go from boyfriend to boyfriend, and I didn't really like hanging out with the girls so much, because I always felt like, I don't know if anybody's ever seen the movie The Duff. Duff stands for Designated Ugly Fat Friend. And I always felt like I was that friend to make everybody else look better. I don't know. Anyways, so I didn't have a whole lot of confidence. I was shy. When things got uncomfortable at school and at home, I'd run away from home. With no destination, I'd just steal a car and take off and go across the United States for a couple weeks. And I hadn't really discovered alcohol yet at that point, but that was probably freshman, sophomore in high school. And I did that a couple of times, and finally my folks had me arrested and put in jail, and the judge told them that I was incorrigible, and I was actually sentenced to go live in a group home for about 9 months, and that caused a lot of that really made me feel like that nobody loved me, and I was really good at those pity parties. I felt sorry for myself a lot, and I frequently thought about not wanting to live. I just didn't. I was unhappy and didn't like myself. And then when I was probably a junior, senior in high school, I discovered alcohol, discovered beer. I'd go to keg parties on Friday nights, and in South Dakota, this would have been in about 1980, beer was readily available. It was easy to get, and I used it as a social lubricant. When I drank, I felt like I fit in, and I felt beautiful, and I felt like everybody loved me and wanted to be with me. And so that was really appealing to me, and I drank it whenever I could drink it, and which was, usually on weekends. And the thing in Brookings, South Dakota, our main street was about 6 blocks long, and the thing on Friday night was just driving up and down Main Street, drinking beer, waving at everybody, driving up and down Main Street, and drinking beer. And I remember senior in high school, I wasn't even old enough to drink yet, and I was in a carload full of, well, not full, but maybe there were probably 4 of us in there, and we had a case of beer in the back, and got pulled over for a tail light, and the cop asked us if we were drinking beer, and told us to put the beer in the trunk and not get caught again. And that's kind of how they dealt with drinking back then, I mean, and that happened, that kind of stuff happened frequent. We got pulled over, we got pulled over or stopped again by the same cop later on that night, because the guys that I was with were in the ditch peeing, and he said, "Didn't I tell you guys to go home?" And that was the end of that. There was no consequences for that kind of stuff, and that's just how it was in Brookings, South Dakota. So anyways, I when I was a senior, I met a guy. He played in a garage band. He was a year younger than me, so he'd have been a junior in high school. And of course, they were a high school garage band, but they played at different. They played at school proms and some dive bars, and I kind of followed him around all over all over the Midwest, wherever they played. I'd follow them around, and of course get drunk and act a fool and embarrass the band and myself and not remember, and I did all that kind of stuff. And I went to college. I went 30 miles away to college so I could move out from my mom and dad's, but be close enough that I could still see this guy that I'm dating, right? And it was just a party. It was a party. I never went to class. Was at the bar for nickel night and 99-cent pitchers and watching bands and whatever. And it was just a big party. And of course, my boyfriend was still in Brookings, and I'm out partying. And one night I was drinking, and I met this guy that I was kind of interested in, and we drank all night, and then went back to the dorms and drank some more, and then drank into the morning. And by afternoon, we decided it was a good idea to get married. And I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't remember a lot of it, but I remember calling my mom that evening and telling her I got married, and she said, "Oh, really? Does Garrett's folks know?" And I said, "Well, no, he doesn't even know." I'm sure my mom was, yeah. Anyways, and Garrett wasn't very happy. Needless to say, that was over, and that was a huge, that I still need to make an amends to him, but Anyway, so when I got married, my mom and dad said, well, we're not going to pay for college anymore if you're married. So I ended up dropping out of college, and a couple of weeks later we got that marriage annulled, but that didn't help my relationship with Garrett any. He didn't want me back at all. So anyways, I dropped out of school and I just got a job working at a nursing home and partying every weekend, and I met my second husband at the bar, and had a baby, and then I caught him in bed with a babysitter, and so that was over, and so it was me and my baby, and I'm still going to the bar on weekends, and met my third husband at the bar, and had another baby, and my third husband was not a very nice guy, and he was physically abusive, and that didn't last very long. But so I left him, and it's all of those ex-husbands' fault. I had nothing to do with any of that. Why those marriages didn't work, it was all their fault. So anyways, a few months later, I met my fourth husband. And at that point, I had the 2 kids, and I'm dating this guy, and I decided I need to go back to college. I was 30 years old. I needed to get a degree and make some money, because if I keep losing these husbands, I'm going to have to support myself. So I went back to college, and I was working full time. I was going to school. I had the 2 kids, and I was really focused on school, and I actually, I finished in 5 years, and I had like a 3.85. So I mean, my grade point average was great, and I was really going to do something with my life, and my whole focus was to go to graduate school and be an occupational therapist. And the only OT school within 500 miles was only accepting 16 people. And I'm thinking, well, that's a piece of cake. With my grades, I'd been working as a therapy aide, so I had about 7 years experience in that field, and it's a piece of cake. Well, I had to do my GRE to get into grad school, and I was really nervous about that, and so I got drunk the morning of the GRE, and I have no idea how I don't even know if I made it through the whole test. I don't know. But anyways, at that point, I realized that my life was probably a little bit unmanageable. This was in 1994, and I was 30 years old, and I couldn't stop drinking. And so a friend of mine that I went to college with the first time, right out of high school, she had already been in AA for a few years, and she said, why don't you come to a meeting with me and check it out? It works for me. So we go to this meeting. Now I'm 30 years old, right? And we walk into this meeting, and it's a clubhouse in Brookings, South Dakota, and it's like about probably 15 people sitting in a circle. They all look like Larry. Okay, so I don't fit in. I do not fit in to this group of people. And so and nobody said, look for the similarities, not the differences. Nobody said that. Just come to this meeting and listen to what they have to say. So I'm listening, and the whole time, I shut that shit down when I walked into that room. And I apologize for my language. Sometimes that kind of stuff slips. I apologize. So anyways, at the end of the meeting, they all come up to us, and they're like, if you want what we got, keep coming back. And I turned to my friend and I said, hell no, I do not want this. There's got to be a easier, softer way. I don't think I use those words, but I was looking for an easier, softer way. So I left there and I kept drinking. So anyways, I got my results for my GRE, and of course I didn't get into grad school, and so I felt sorry for myself, and I had my boyfriend and I at the time had bought a crappy old trailer house, and we were going to fix it up. Well, my folks had given me a brand new car for graduation from college. And so I went to the bank and I took out a loan to fix up this trailer house that we bought. And when I found out that I didn't get into grad school, I proceeded to call into work. It was on a Thursday, I got that letter, and I called into work on Friday. I went to the bar. And in South Dakota, they have what they call video lottery machines. It's gambling everywhere, gambling. And I sat down in front of a machine and proceeded to spend, from Friday morning until Saturday or Sunday, however many hours that was, and I spent $5,000 and just kept drinking. And by the time Sunday came around, I called my friend and told her that I was going to kill myself. And I went to that trailer house, and I was figuring on how I was going to do that. And next thing I know, 3 cop cars show up, and they told me that it's illegal for me to commit suicide. And I'm like, what are you gonna arrest me when I'm dead, or how's that work? So they took me down to the police station and gave me a choice. You can either go to jail, or your friend here is gonna have to take you to treatment. And so I decided I wanted to go to treatment. That sounded like a good idea. So I went to treatment for 30 days, and and my boyfriend didn't want to have anything to do with me after I spent all that money either. So I was single when I went to treatment, and I struggled when they said that I needed to have a higher power, that I had to. And when they're talking about God, and I'm thinking, that's not going to work for me. Maybe there's a easier, softer way. But I did. They told me to fake it till you make it. Just keep coming back. Keep doing what you're doing. Fake it till you make it. It'll come. It didn't come. It never came. But I did. I faked it until I made it, and I stayed sober 7 months. And during the course of that 7 months, got back with my boyfriend, and we decided, and I decided after 7 months, you know what? I can't stay here. If I move away, then I won't have to worry about this stuff anymore. And so we agreed. We both quit our jobs. Decided we were going to move south where it's warm. I was sick and tired of that cold weather. And didn't know where we were going, but took a map of the United States back when they had paper maps, and just kind of blindly went, let's go here, and it ended up being Denton, Texas. I know. But anyway, so we were address challenged, I think that's the word, for about a month and a half, and lived in a tent, and in Texas in June. And I'd never been to Texas. I had no idea what the hell I was getting into. But anyways, by moving to Texas, I was cured of the alcohol and the gambling. And so I'm good. Okay, 7 months sober, I'm good. I can do this. And so I don't know, I tried drinking a beer, I guess. And then that turned into lots of beer for another 25 years. And I only drank beer. And I justify, I'm not an alcoholic. I only drink beer. I love the taste. I drink because I love the taste, not because of what it does to me. I didn't tell anybody that I was drinking, 15, 20 beers a day. And then eventually, after 10, 15, 20 years, the beer just wasn't doing it for me. I mean, all I'm doing is getting a beer belly, and I'm not getting drunk anymore. So I supplemented with Fireball. I love Fireball. But nobody else knew I was doing that. I had my Fireball in my closet. I drink beer in front of people, and whenever I went out and whatever, I didn't want anybody to know that I couldn't even get drunk drinking 15 beers. Let's see. I'm lost. Okay, so 25 years, 2011. I'm drinking heavy. Actually at that point I was drinking vodka. I was hiding the vodka and drinking beer, and having trouble with my kids. My son was 16 and wasn't getting along with my husband, who, by the way, I married right after we moved to Texas. I forgot to say that, but so in '96 I got married to this guy, and I was struggling with my son Tony, and he was getting in with the wrong crowd and getting into drugs, and I was feeling like a shitty mom and doing the pity party thing and feeling like a loser, and decided I was going to kill myself again. And it did, and I did this. It just happened to be a day that Tony, my son, was skipping school, and he thought I was at work. So he, I took a lot of pills and was on the floor, and he came home after he had pretended to go to school and came home and found me on the floor and called the ambulance, and they took me to the hospital and pumped my stomach, and then the next thing I know, there's a fucking cop there arresting me again. And they gave me a choice, either go to treatment or go to jail. So I went to treatment. I had no intention of getting sober. No intention of getting sober at all. I spent 30 days at La Hacienda in 2011, came home, and a week later I was drinking again, just like I never stopped. So 10 years after that brings us to 2021, yeah. So actually 2020, I guess I'll start there because of the COVID thing. The COVID was allowed me to isolate because I worked, my job had me work from home. So from the very beginning, so March of 2020, I started working from home, and immediately I'm drinking from morning till the time I went to bed. And a lot of that was Fireball. Anyways, I was drinking a lot and having a lot of issues, not getting along with my husband. I just didn't care anymore. Just didn't care. I could barely shower. I mean, why shower? I'm not going anywhere. I just drink. And I did pick up a new hobby though. I started painting rocks, and that made me feel good about myself. I can paint a mean rock, and and the kid, and my grandbabies. I mean, it was a kind of a family thing. My grandbabies would do it, and then we'd take these painted rocks out to parks and hide them for people to find. And it made me feel good that maybe I'll make somebody else's day. And that helped me. And then I discovered a rock trail, a painted rock trail in Grapevine called Parr Park Rock Trail. That's right off William D. Tate. And a friend of mine and I were going to go down there, and I forgot where the exit or where the turnoff was, but on William D. Tate, before you get to the turn for Parr Park Rock Trail, is the parking lot for Valley Hope. And me and my friend drive in the parking lot for Valley Hope, and I said, oh shit, this isn't the right place. And my friend, who's been sober for about 20 years, says, did you see what this is? And and she said, do you think that might have been a God thing? And it made me ponder, okay? I know what it is. I know what treatment is and AA is, and yeah, you're right. I probably, yeah, maybe a God thing. Anyway, so I pondered that, and that night I went home, and I had just this was like right after my birthday's on, my belly button birthday is on June 7th, and this was on I went into Valley Hope. Okay, I don't know, a couple days later. Anyways, but I had gotten a kitten for my birthday. My husband finally agreed to let me get a kitten for my birthday. And now this man is very controlling, and I had to get permission to get a kitty. Anyway, so we go get a kitty. And the night I came home from going in Valley Hope parking lot, the kitty pooped on the couch where my husband sits. And he sat in it. And I was happy. No, he was not. He was not happy. And he told me, with a lot of other stuff, but he actually told me, it's either the cat or me. And that was the easiest. That was the easy. Now I've been married to this man for 25 years, and it was rough. That was rough. I blame him for my drinking. There's no way that I could have dealt with that man all those years if I didn't drink. So again, it wasn't my fault. But anyways, I decided, okay, you know what? I took the cat to my daughter's house, and I decided the next morning I'm going to Valley Hope. There is no way that I'm leaving this man, but there's no way that I can do this if I don't have my shit together, because there is no way that I would be able to manage on my own if I'm as drunk as I've been. And so I drank the rest of my Fireball, and I can't waste it. But then I made the decision to go to Valley Hope, and I didn't even have a police officer telling me I had to. I did it myself. Thank you, God. Thank you, God, and thank you for Parr Park Rock Trail and turning in the wrong end. There's so many things that just all happened, and when I look back, isn't it funny how God speaks to you? He's speaking to you all the time, and you don't even realize it until you turn around and it's like, oh wow, that was clear. But I didn't believe in God at that point, so I wasn't seeing that. Anyway, so I went to Valley Hope, and I met Terry's son, and He said, you need to meet my mom. She goes to Louisville group. So anyways, like I was telling you, I had trouble with the God thing. I had a lot of trouble with the God thing, and I told my counselor, I don't know if this is going to work. If I have to have a higher power and you keep calling him God, I don't know if that's going to work. And my counselor said, there's a prayer on the back wall in the chapel. You go in there and you get on your knees and you pray that prayer. And I don't remember exactly what it said, but it was something to the effect that, God, if you're there, please show me in a way that I can understand. And I prayed that on my knees 3 times. And I'm expecting, come on, lightning or whatever, and nothing happened. Anyway, so right after that, I went to class, or we had music therapy that day, and I was in music therapy, and the counselor had us each pick a song, and then tell why you chose that song, and then we'll listen to the song and whatever. And I picked Whitesnake, Here I Go Again on My Own, because that's my breakup song, and I was leaving my husband. And we ran out of time before we got to my song, and I was bummed out. Anyways, we'll do it next week, whatever. And I went back to my room, and I was messing around with the little clock radio that they had, old time clock radio with the dial that has one station that's static. And I turned that radio on, and I'll be damned if that song wasn't on. And God. Okay, I believe you now. I believe you. You're there. And then it was like, after that, it was like he could have been speaking through a what's that? Yeah, I knew I was going to lose a word. Thank you for not saying penis. Inside joke, sorry. Now I lost my spot.
You were speaking.
Anyways, yeah. So my sponsor said that coincidences are God's way of staying anonymous. I love that saying. But anyways, I did learn one thing: don't pray for patience. Don't pray for patience, because he will give you every opportunity to practice. Anyway, so about 3 weeks into treatment, I hope I don't run out of time. About 3 weeks into treatment, I decided, it'd been 3 weeks since I'd seen my husband, and I decided, okay, you know what? Maybe it's God's will to give this one more shot. What the hell? I'm getting kind of lonely. And I don't know if I can do this without him. So I decided I was going to get back together with my husband. So I called him and I said, you got to agree to counseling. You got to do this. You got to quit drinking. You got to do this. Got to come to meetings with me. And so we tried a meeting, and he said, I'm not an alcoholic. Go figure. Anyways, and then pretty soon he's saying, do you got to go to another meeting? Really? And then one night, and this was only about a month after I got home from treatment, and one night I came home from a meeting, and he had a bottle of Fireball on the counter, and he doesn't drink Fireball. And I decided right there and then it was over, and the next day I filed for divorce. Despite everybody telling me, don't make major changes or decisions in the first year, I made that decision, and I think God actually made that decision for me by allowing him to put that Fireball on that counter, because it was not going to work. I would have been drinking if I'd have stayed with that man. And that was the best decision that I've made since I've been sober. The best decision. And besides staying sober, that's a pretty good decision. Thank you, God. All right, so after that, after I'd made up my mind, we sold the house because I couldn't afford to stay in that house, my dream house. I love that house, and but it was worth not staying there because I could not do that anymore, and I did not want to take a chance and start drinking again. So I'm now in a 1-bedroom apartment across the street, and I chose it because it's right across from AA. And I doubled down on my program. I made way more than 90 meetings in less than 30 days. I just keep coming back. I haven't missed a day. And that's been 10 months. And I love you guys. I love you. I could not do this without you guys. And in October, I was getting to the 9th step, and I knew my daughter. We had a very rocky relationship, and we weren't talking, and she wasn't letting me see my grandson, and I decided she was going to be my first amends. And she's real sick. Most of you know this about my daughter. She's type 1 diabetic, has been since she was a kid. She lost her kidney function when she got pregnant with her son, and she's been on dialysis for a little over 3 years. And there's been many times that she's been in the hospital, in ICU with life-threatening situations. And I decided I need to do her first. I need to do that amends first, because I could not live with myself if she died before I got the opportunity to do that. So, she was my first amends, and and I did it, and I said, I'm sorry for, and I did all my stuff, and I said, is there anything I missed? Is there anything that you want to, And she said, Mom, I love you. I've always loved you, and I forgave you long time ago. And the reason that I wasn't seeing her and seeing my grandson is because I didn't want to. I had that resentment, and I had to forgive in order. I had to forgive and clean myself. And anyways, things are much better. I see her very frequently. She's been in the hospital 13 times since then. And at one point, COVID, she couldn't have visitors, and the hospitals are full. And at one point, she went in the hospital at like 7 o'clock in the morning and laid on a gurney in ER all day until 11:30 that night, until she finally got a room. And she called me and said, I'm not doing this anymore, Mom. I am not doing this anymore. I'm calling and getting on hospice tomorrow. And I said, Mandy, I learned something in this program. Don't focus on the problem. Let's figure out the solution. Let's figure out what we need to do. And I'll be damned if that didn't work. She listened to me, and she called the transplant coordinator, and she got the ball rolling, and we're only about a month out from a dual transplant. And the doctor, I met with the doctor and her, and he said, when we get the organs, we're going to give you a call, and you got to be down here within a couple hours, because we got to get that ball rolling. And I'm thinking to myself, a year ago, if she got the call, I wouldn't be able to go with her. There's no way that I would ever be sober and be able to sober up in 2 hours. There's no way. So thanks to this program, I'm going to be able to be there for her. So anyways, I've been coming to these meetings. My favorite group, and I like all of y'all. I like all of y'all. But my favorite group is 7 o'clock in the morning. I get my tank full, as James would say, at 7 o'clock. And I start my day, and I come into my day full of AA. And love you guys. And anyways, a few of the things that, every meeting I come to, I have my little notebook. And you guys say shit, and I write shit down. And some of the stuff, I wrote down John. I'm surprised John isn't here. I'm kind of bummed about that, but John Aston, he wakes up with untreated alcoholism every day. Poor guy. God. And Michelle, when you share, sometimes I know what you're talking about, sometimes I don't. But I know you talk about peanut a lot. I love you, hon. I love you. And then gosh, some of these people aren't here, but Kevin talks about drinking warm beer up in the attic and then doing his wife a favor by coming to AA. And JJ talks about people that don't act right. And Lee has a problem. You are the problem. And Bill, it's always his wife's fault. Everything's his wife's fault. And Ken, he talks about moving a muscle and changing a thought. And Brian, he, thought he could graduate and get his stuff back. And there's this new guy that started coming. I haven't seen him in a couple days, but Eamon, he says he earned season tickets to AA for the rest of his life. I love that. Oh, God, I got another one by Ken. God, help me get ready for whatever comes next. Yeah. And Vicky, my sponsor. I call her, and I'm all in a uproar about something, and she says, "Have you eaten?" And of course I haven't. I never eat hardly. And she said, "Well, go get a hamburger, fries, and a milkshake, and call me back." And if I ever tell her that I'm going to drink, she tells me to play the tape all the way forward to the end, and then tell me if I still want to drink, and that usually helps. It helps. I got a few more here. Mike, he talks about being an apple in an orange crate. I love that. And Danny's not here. She's the first one that said, that I remember say, expectations are premeditated resentments. And it's funny, I had that written down on, all throughout my book. Expectations are premeditated resentments. Mark. I swore I saw Mark. Is Mark here? He's probably griping because he can't smoke. I shouldn't say that. So he told me that if I'm having a really bad day, and at the end of the day I haven't had a drink or I haven't killed anybody, then it was a really great day. And Judy talks about when she first came in here, something about a cult and needing brainwashing. Needing her brainwashed. And then Kay, just the other day, we were talking about how drinking is like having a bad boyfriend. Yeah. You break up with them, and then after a little while, then you forget how bad it was and you go back. And then you wonder what the hell you're doing there. That happened a lot. I got 5 more minutes, and I got just a little bit left. These are some things I've learned. I don't have names on these, but I wrote this down in my book, and focus on the solution, not the problem. Forgiveness can help free you from the control of the person who harmed you. If nothing changes, nothing changes. Yeah. I get a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of my spiritual condition. Don't make decisions based on fear, pride, or ego. Do the things I don't want to do to feel the way I want to feel. And ask God for the willingness. Be persistent until you become consistent. Keep your concerns in your own hula hoop. God does for us what we can't do for ourselves. The more I learn, the less I know. Alcoholism is a disease that tells you you don't have a disease. And character defects don't go away. But with AA, I can now identify them sooner. It's like playing whack-a-mole. God can move mountains, but He expects you to bring a shovel. How you treat others has a ripple effect. That's all I have on my note cards. And I'm not very good at talking off the top of my head. So, yeah, that's all I got. I love you guys. I'm Julie, and
Thank you, Judy. Let's give her another hand.